The EduTech guys present a conversation from our live coverage of Fetc in Orlando, Florida on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. Enjoy the program.
The hot seat is once again filled,
and
we're excited to have a longtime friend. It's been a while since we've seen you, but go ahead and tell us who you are and all that kind of good stuff.
I get to be Bob Dylan every day of my life.
I know, how
right?
awesome
so
is
it's
that?
so fun. I actually now work as the Director of Innovation, which we can unpack that interesting title, right?
Yes.
But
right.
At the School District of University City in St. Louis, Missouri. So we have about 2,800 kids, K-12, and we are right there in the heart of St. Louis. It's fantastic.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So I say we jump into that. Let's unpack that. So as best as you can, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think I've carved this up, right? So I was a high school English teacher and a middle school principal and then a tech director. And so this is kind of the best of all those worlds. So I get to do three things, right? I manage tech services. So sometime today someone's going to email me, can you update my password? I get all that stuff still.
Sure.
And then I work really closely with the curriculum and instruction department, like talking about how we can integrate tech, but also just helping them with systems. So a lot of it's systems integration and removing friction from the system, I say a lot of times. And then the third is like marketing and communication. So it plays back to my journalism and English background. So it's been kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
You get to do everything that you've been preparing your whole life to do.
I guess, yeah. And then play, right? Like everybody says my mantra is always working, always playing. So it's the only way I can know how to do it.
That's what they think we do too. You know, we get to play. So it's So what brings you to Fetc?
Yeah, well, I love being here. I feel like it's great to leave St. Louis in January and come to Orlando.
That's
right.
So there's nothing
always
wrong
a
with
plus.
that.
That's it. Yeah.
And then I think the team here that run this is just top notch, right? Jennifer Womble and her team. And,
they're great to us.
And so it always feels good. And then it's one of 2 times a year where I feel like all the people that are thought partners with me, people that I get to see face to face and kind of make that reconnection. So it's always good. And so I'm actually, just like my job, I'm all over the place in what I'm presenting and talking about here this week. So
that's cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. Jennifer is the whole crew. When you start talking about stuff, it immediately goes to education. Yeah. It's not about LRP or it's not about the Fetc. It's about, did you see this? Have you seen this? We've got this going on. The big thing here is the STEM Awards coming up. That's a new big deal. We just saw Mitch Weisberg, who was telling us about the gameplay stuff that they've got on the floor this time. So this is a great conference. It's a really good
Jennifer
conference.
just said 11,200 was when she left the office was registration, which is a huge growth, and then a huge growth in the number of administrators here, which I can tell you every teacher in the country is happy about that because they come back with these ideas and then it falls on deaf ears unless the leader's been here.
That's exactly
good.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
One of the things that I like to hear about administrators coming to really any conference, but especially something as big and as important as Fetc is that those administrators then, at least hopefully, go back to their districts and say, oh, I went to this conference, and next year you and you and you guys need to go to this conference.
Yeah.
So they get from, instead of being on the receiving end of we want to go, they've been, and now they're saying, oh, you go, and so and it gives them that background information and hopefully the excitement to send some of those key folks to the conference.
One of the interesting things is I hear over and over, you see folks that are first-time conference goers, and they feel like they have to go to everything because no one's given them permission not to.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if your leader comes, though, they can say, I went to here, and then I took a session off, and I had a conversation, and then I did, because I think sometimes people try too hard. I don't know. It's like they're checking some boxes, and
You're right.
And they miss learning that would have happened organically.
Yeah.
And so part of my role back at home is the same sort of thing, giving people permission to do things that no one said no to, but no one said yes to.
Right.
And so I think part of that is when there's friction, someone emails me, can you help me with this?
Right.
And it's a fun job to be able to do.
It sounds
And
like
so
it.
It's a lot of fun. So.
That's what we were talking about here, and one of our big things was, listen, get out of your comfort zone. Don't go to the stuff you already know. You're probably doing it already. You're going to be fine. Keep pushing forward. Go into something that you've never done before. Find out what else is out there and broaden your horizons. As we say, expand your narrative. It's time to get out there and add to that.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening for you that you brought it here. That you knew I've got to take this to Fetc and I've got to show these folks this stuff because it's working for me right now and these students?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, we are trying to rebrand and set the narrative for our school district. We're a school district that has declined over the last decade or so. Test scores will tell you that. Other stuff will tell you that. And we're really trying to get back. And that's a hard thing once the momentum's going one way. Yeah. But that's a good story that I'm telling here. And then also I do a ton of work with learning space design.
Yeah. Okay.
And I really believe deeply that modern pedagogical work, the technology integration, doesn't get maximized unless the physical space where it happens.
Yeah,
so I'm spending a lot of times with teachers and districts rethinking that. And trying to do it in a way that's kind of low budget, no budget. Yeah. It's more of a mindset shift. It's about being aware. It's about making the right decisions. So even this afternoon, we're going to talk about that for a couple hours. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
I'd like to catch that. I'm really into that lately. That's a real big deal to me. And people, when they hear you say that, it means kind of they pigeonhole it to like one thing. So I need new desks. Is that what you're saying? I need new desks? No. It's more broad than that, and they need someone to help explain that to them.
Yeah, it's really a mindset.
I do, so.
And it's not it's not about furniture, but people run to the furniture, right?
Exactly.
And certainly, there's great stuff that is different than desks.
Sure.
But I can tell you that half of the battle is removing things from the room, and getting over kind of the momentum and inertia of what it is currently.
Right.
And so, actually, I'm excited. St. Louis Public Schools doing 18 early childhood classrooms this semester, where we're redesigning those spaces to meet those kids' needs, and it's a great project. So I've got a bunch of those types of projects on the horizon as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That sounds like a huge undertaking. Rebranding, getting the kids back to understanding. Okay, this is the things you can do here, because we're from rural Arkansas, so the majority of our kids are going to stay and live where they are. And so it's time, and that's hard to do in a town of 10,000. So we've got to rebrand and say, well, these are the things you can do, and here's why you need technology, and here's what you can do when you stay right here. And that's a really hard deal. And I would like to know, so how's it going overall? I mean, are you going piece by piece and building off of small blocks? Like, these are our 3 goals we're shooting for right now, and we're going to get to these 3 goals and then move on?
Yeah, what I think the mistake becomes is that it becomes this portfolio of change you have to do, right? And so that gets overwhelming. So we've really thought about that and said, what are the 3 big buckets? So we're talking about how do we humanize learning? Okay. Like, how do we take all that stuff that we know institutionalizes learning and really think about the human beings first? Some of that's trauma-informed learning, some of that's mindfulness, but some of that's just like how we're treating kids and how they're treating each other. We're thinking about personalization, and that's a buzzword, but in our eyes, it really is about trying to figure out a path and a pace for every kid, and that's a long journey, right? Like, that isn't going to happen tomorrow.
Still doing it.
And right, exactly. And then the last one is we're talking about problematizing learning.
Okay.
Right? And a lot of that's us getting into the community to really, really think about how we can solve real problems in our community. Because like you were talking about, you go to rural Missouri, not much different than rural Arkansas. Like, there are issues in those communities that if kids felt as 8th graders they were starting to solve, well, then they want to be the mayor.
Yeah.
Then they want to be on the council.
Right.
Then they're right. But if they don't start working on those problems in middle school, what happens there? And so, it's been interesting, and it's a work in progress. So,
Well, and I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. There have been issues in and around St. Louis, social issues, and that's, you guys as educators in those schools working with those children, you talk about humanizing the learning and working in the communities. There's you talk about real world problems, and it's not just the what am I trying to say? You also have to deal with the emotional and psychological issues that go along with that, with the students that you're trying to, help them in all of the all the cool ed tech stuff that they're doing. Meanwhile, some of them are literally afraid that, the guy next door is going to whip out a gun and start shooting through the walls. I mean, so
we're 6.8 miles. Our high school 6.8 miles from Ferguson.
Yeah.
When the Jason Stockley decision came down, Del Mar Avenue, the Loop in St. Louis was where there was protests going on. That's
Right.
in our district.
Yeah.
We had a student that we lost to gunfire this year at the high school. So, yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
But we have really thought about how do we build advocates
Yeah.
and kind of warriors for social justice issues. So we're actually looking at a public service academy that
Sure.
really has this lens of social justice that flows through it. And, we let our kids walk out of school, have a protest, and talked about that and unpacked it and dealt with it. And
Yeah.
so, it's challenging work, but it's a place that really, if we can get this right, it can be a model for other places.
Yes.
So it's soulful work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I need to share with you. So in Hope, Arkansas, where I'm
Yeah.
from, we have a new the Hope Academy of Public Service, and we've partnered with the Clinton Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to get you some information. The Clinton Foundation sends a lot of their students to us to help build programs and work that way, and it's so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Everyone likes free. So.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. No. And we're seeing models. Kind of a couple. I'm actually getting ready to blog out this evening. Is that I think that before we talk about choice and personalization, we'll hear that in 100 sessions here, right?
Yeah.
We've got to think about how do we get allies, how do we get different people working together, whether it's people in St. Louis and Hope, Arkansas. We've got to have an awareness where folks don't even know the best stuff that's going on. How
Right.
do we get that to people? And you guys do a good job of having these interviews and, hey, people get to tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the other is access, right? That's a huge issue that this conference is based on the fact that people have access.
Yes.
And there are places, both Missouri, Arkansas, and around the country that's just not the reality still.
Right.
And so those are all big deals for me before we even start talking about choice and personalization and all those things that everybody's
exactly.
talking about. So
Awesome. So first session, when is it at Fetc?
yeah, 1:30. Got
Okay.
a workshop on learning space design.
Okay.
And then I do a session on brain-based learning and unpacking some things what we know about brain research and bring that into the classroom. And then we talk about the high school transformation piece.
Okay.
And then the last piece that I'm doing is a little bit about data privacy and innovation and how those sit next to each other and don't have to fight with each other.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
And so, as you said, that's a little bit of a stretch for me. That's not in my total wheelhouse, but I'm excited to kind of really just have a great conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say. The really cool thing about doing workshops that you're not necessarily comfortable with and don't necessarily, you don't see yourself necessarily as the expert or maybe even the complete opposite. It's, not only not an expert at this, but I'm brand new to this, having that conversation. Because there could very well be people sitting in there who are very well versed in it, and everybody gets to learn from the fact that you're presenting the topic out there for people to talk about.
Yeah, and I was a founder of EdCamp, so I like to have the EdCamp DNA in me, right? Just let's have a conversation. Let's bring some questions to the table and let the room be the smartest person there. So
Exactly.
it'll be good.
That is
That's
awesome.
cool.
Well, you've definitely got a full plate ahead of you, that's for sure.
That's really true. So folks want to get in touch with you because folks listen to the show and they go,
Yep.
hey, I want to find out more about that. So Twitter handle.
Yep, at IdeaGuy42.
Okay, and we'll tweet that out.
Yeah, and super easy. So I'm drrobertdillon.com.
Okay,
Also,
cool.
You can get me
There
there.
you go. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Man.
Thanks,
Well-
guys.
Well,
thanks for coming by.
Always
we
good to
absolutely
connect.
loved having Bob Dillon on the show.
Yeah, see, maybe Ken Robinson will come next because he's
Yeah.
heard about
Yeah,
been on the show.
Yeah.
Only. So
Yeah.
maybe so.
That's awesome.
Maybe if you could put in a good word for us.
I'll see what I
when,
can
you, when
do.
you talk to the good Sir Ken.
Right. He's right. He's right on my next
Yeah,
things to
yes,
do list.
exactly.
I'm sure,
Yes,
so.
yes.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to a recorded conversation from EduTech Guy's live coverage of Fetc 2018. For more information about EduTech Guys, visit edutechguys.com. And thanks for listening.